Here we are today, a couple days now before Dog Bite Prevention Week, and I thought it was really timely that we catch up and maybe share a few things with the audience in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's been an interesting time for me because we've had a number of calls through our dog and baby support line. Actually, we've had a lot of newborn calls. And then I had several from emergency rooms, that were really scared. The 4-year-old bitten under the eye, needing stitches, an 8-year-old dog, that was just heartbreaking because the dog was their dog before they had their child. Their dog had bitten, their dog hadn't bitten before. They didn't know what to do. Now it's an 8-year-old dog. What do? They've had the dog before the child. These things really tear up families. And I think that people don't realize how much goes into an incident when dogs do bite. And it is so incredibly preventable with younger children that I just really am grateful to team up so we can try to prevent that, because it ends up in questions, right? You can't always rehome a dog that is bitten. And so it ends up at our veterinarian's doorstep a lot of times, I think.
Right. Well, when we had talked a few days ago, you had mentioned, I think just that day or in the couple days leading up to that chat, that these calls that you got literally from parents in an emergency room. I mean, that is eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Not unusual that someone calls us from there. They get really scared. And usually we can talk later about what we can do. There's quarantine, there's all sorts of things that happen once a dog has bitten. And it's complicated. It gets really complicated very quickly. And it's just so hard. Trust is broken. It's something that I really want to prevent. I mean, it's just my life's mission to prevent, especially with young children. This mother walked out of the room for 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. Nothing any of us haven't done. And, her child crawled up to her dog and her 4-year-old. So it's really, 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 really difficult for people to understand how quickly it can happen with good dogs, right? These are good dogs. These are good dogs. As we were saying, biting is communication. It's a form of communication when the other things fail. The other signals, such as licking lips, turning away, whale eye, some of those things that we talk about.
I don't know. I was particularly intrigued by these calls that you got because they're very real. I know they were upsetting to you to have
Yes.
to have received. So what should we talk about?
I think we should pull up some of the slides that we have and go through some of those because they really do illustrate the expectations and problems and things that people run into. Because a lot of times I think many people would think these pictures are really cute, but I would consider them pictures that have some warning and have a lot of communication on the dog side.
Let's do it.
What's interesting to me, Sheri, is that dogs don't communicate with verbally. So they use body language, and infants and toddlers use body language. So they're on the same playing field. But that can lead to conflicts because we have a different way of communicating, especially in forms of affection. And when it comes to affection, a toddler is going to give affection in their way. So this 4-year-old who went over to give their dog a hug and a kiss, as so many times we do, I just did a call out for action. Please don't have your child hug your dog goodnight, kiss your dog goodnight, kiss your dog, I'm sorry, kiss your dog in the morning, those things, because the displays of affection are so different. And I think people don't really understand that when you have an unsteady toddler, unsteady child coming up to you as a dog, that's terrifying. That's traumatizing. And it's not something that's comfortable, right, for some dogs, especially when you have a toddler that's right at their eye level. Can you see how that would be a problem?
Yeah.
They can use their paws, but they're most likely going to use their facial expression. So they're going to use their ears, their eyes, their tail, their muzzle. They're going to lick their lips. They're going to turn away. I love this slide because it shows the same dog with a lot of different expressions, right? So these are expressions of the first one. He's kind of looking and watching and paying attention. He's like, what's going on? You see his ears forward and his eyes are wide and his mouth is closed. In the middle, we can see, obviously, he's a happy dog. He's looking very happy. You can even, in fact, see his tail. And on the right, you can see one of the signs that I think a lot of people miss is that lip lick, that big lip lick. And you can see his eyebrows and his ears back and all those things. So we really want to provide this education to people so that they can be familiar, because most of the parents I speak to, especially the ones with the toddlers with the bites and the 4-year-olds with the bites, what they say to me is, I wish I had known. That's what they say to me. And that tells me that through all of us, dog professionals, veterinarians, I even go to childbirth educators, we can do a better job at getting this information out there. I know we can. Because with this information, you can decrease the likelihood of a bite. Because if a parent is aware of what they're looking at, they can diffuse a situation very quickly. So this is just an example. So these are both not real creatures, but this is a common situation of just that direct frontal face on, right at the level, and you see the dog and the child and the reaching into the crate or reaching in. It really, really, really goes to show how things can escalate very, very quickly when there's confinement. So the situation that I had, there were two. There was one where the child needed stitches, and it was the dog and the child met behind a chair. There was another one where the child cornered the dog. It was bedtime, and it was in a corridor in the hallway. And the dog and child met, and that was a bite that didn't require any stitches. But it doesn't matter whether there's stitches or not. As a parent, once you see a bite, it raises fear. And I'm sure that that's when a veterinarian gets a phone call and people want to know what to do, and they look to their vets for guidance. What do we do? Our dog just bit. We're not sure what to do. And we're just trying to reach out and collaborate together so that we can really help people.
Yeah. And I actually don't think that my colleagues out there, the veterinarians and the veterinary technicians, think about what kind of role they actually can play in people's lives in this regard. Obviously, they're focused on healthcare of the animal and, taking care of the healthcare needs. But I remember back in my practice days, people casually mentioning during an appointment, oh, we're bringing a baby home. What should I do? Should I bring the blanket home? That's always been that old wives' tale or that default answer. But we have so much more to offer our clients. But I also maintain you don't know what you don't know. I know I learned so much from listening to Sheri and learning from you in this program that we continue to host. Just what a wonderful resource we can be for our clients to keep these families safe and the dogs, their welfare protected as well.
We want our dogs to feel safe and comfortable so that they're not in a position where they feel they need to bite. We want parents to recognize those subtle signals so that they can intervene earlier so that there's no need for a dog to escalate, right? Because once a dog escalates and once a bite happens, we run into really sad situations. This scene right here is a really common bite situation. This dog is looking away. And again, I use this one because it's not a scary situation, but it's a common situation. A child, you can see the direct frontal, that approach. What a child's going to do is go closer into the dog. And as the dog looks away, they're going to move in for the eye contact. And the children are going to use their hands and the dogs are going to use their mouth. They're going to lick the baby. They might paw at the baby, which could lead to a scratch, which sometimes that happens where a parent calls me and they don't know whether it's a scratch or a bite. And so, there has to be constant supervision. But these are common situations. Our goal is to educate our families ahead of time. Like when your baby starts cruising, that's a good time to consider where the dog's going to be on the couch, because you can't have the dog on the couch and child approach the dog at that level. That's just a situation that leads to bites. Here's a situation, unfortunately, it's one of the families that I worked with, and unfortunately, this dog was euthanized due to a severe bite to one of his twins. And it was a very, very, very sad situation for the whole family. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget this case. I'll never forget the heartache of the parent who is crying to me on the phone, the father who is broken down saying, I failed. I failed my family. I failed my dog. I failed my child. I failed my wife. I failed. No parent should feel like that. And, we can provide information just to prevent some of these situations. And that's what our monthly workshops try to do. And the workshop that you have through VetVine, it's so incredibly important. And it gives that information to help people prevent these situations, which is what we need to do. What else is there but prevention? But here's a veterinarian who lost a patient, right? And that's heartbreaking for everybody, because you have a healthy dog who was in a situation. So what I see, I'll be truthful, I see dogs that are put in situations that are preventable situations where a bite happens, where a family feels that they have no other choice. They can't rehome the dog because of legal situations. They don't have any alternatives, and euthanasia becomes one of the common discussions, and it's heartbreaking. So we come back to these slides where everybody thinks everybody's cute. And I don't know, looking at it, what do you notice?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. These are the kinds of pictures you see people posting on social, and they're just too common. They appear in our feeds, and people share them, and they do think they're cute. I mean, I can tell you right off the bat, everything that I've learned from you in particular, and some of my behavior experts, that probably all these dogs look uncomfortable in some way. I mean, I would say that because I've learned a lot, and I'm just become more aware of what to look for.
Yes, the dog's uncomfortable. You can see this dog in the eyes. You can see in the mouth. You can see this dog has whale eye, doesn't really appreciate that. This dog isn't sure if this child is feeding it something or not. It's a little uncomfortable, a little too close proximity. This dog does not appreciate the child leaning on him. And this dog is saying, oh, yeah, let me have some space. I would guess, if I had to guess with this is a photo image trying to be caught, and they plop the baby right next to the dog, and the dog is like, yeah, no, thank you. My big thing in focusing on dogs and babies is I don't believe that a newborn needs to be up close to a dog. I just don't believe that, we need to be laying newborns on dogs and doing that kind of thing. I have no idea what that does, fear-wise in a newborn. The dogs are predators, whether we like it or not. They're family dogs. We have them in our home, and I think we forget what their natural instincts are. They have strong natural instincts, and we need to respect that. And we also need to respect the consent and comfort level of the child. An infant can't say I'm uncomfortable, but I wanted to just really emphasize that, we're working together to create lifelong lasting bonds through prevention and awareness. And I think that is super important. And I hope it reaches many veterinarians.
So, yeah, I appreciate this body language bit, but there's so much beyond that. As you say, parents can't constantly be with the child. When there's a dog present and they turn their backs, they look at their phones, they turn over to the oven or to the stove to do what they're doing. And it's those moments. And I hope people take the opportunity to learn more from you and all the programs that you have to offer. But for sure, my colleagues, that they'll embrace the opportunity to expand their understanding of some of the complexities and the easy things, quite frankly, that people can do if they're just proactive and put their minds to planning.
I mean, Euthanasia is not anything anybody wants to talk about, but unfortunately, it's a priority in what I do. I talk about it, if not daily, almost daily. It's when people have no other choices. And I have a little booklet here, my euthanasia booklet, that I took a bunch of different classes on euthanasia, on counseling people. And it's horrible. These dogs that bite children don't need to be euthanized in most cases. It's just a one-off, and it's preventable. It's so preventable. I can't imagine being a veterinarian and having to deal with that. And I, in fact, know clients who've gone to veterinarians and they say they will not euthanize the dog, and then we run into all sorts of complications. So,
well, again, thanks for all that you do, and we're going to make sure that people have an opportunity to get some of those free resources. We'll
yes,
get a link here, and people can download those. I know my colleagues in practice may appreciate those, so thank you.
absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for your interest and continued support.